Thank you, Jane, for your wonderful talk.
Thank you.
This Trust in Mind little edition was produced by Diane Eagles when she was the owner of Dharma Crafts, a meditation supply business. And she called me just the other day saying that she found the original of the art that's on the cover with a much better resolution, and she would like to print another 500 copies. So I said, sure, we'll do that. And maybe I'll look at the translation again and revise it. You never know.
It's been used.
It's been a long time. So, coming to a Zen center near you for sale, maybe for like $1. What a deal. When you were talking about, good and evil, the poem that's on our precepts, ceremony certificate, when you take 5 precepts, there's a poem on the certificate that reads, good and evil have no self-nature. Holy and unholy are empty words. In front of the door is the land of freedom and light. Spring comes and the grass grows by itself. So that's the best response I could give to this whole issue. Thank you for bringing it up. I remember that poem, of course, because it's on the precepts certificate, but it just brings Zen Master Sung-san to mind for me. The last event in his life was actually a precepts ceremony that he conducted, and after that he didn't do any more teaching. He was quite ill. He managed to get through the precept ceremony, and so his last act in transmitting our tradition to another generation. And I think of that because I'm turning 80 soon, and if I'm going to do any transmitting, it probably ought to be fairly soon. So we'll see how that works out. Are there any questions? Do I have it? Maybe the sound is better now. Okay, anyway, I'm sure I can hear you if any of you have any questions online.
So I have a question in regards of don't make the good or bad, and this could be in the case of happy or sad, and so I substituted at the school in my community on Friday, which I didn't want to do, but I did. And I found out that the person that I substituted for, the reason that she wasn't there was because her nephew had committed suicide the night before. And so I thought, well, that's really sad. And the thing is, it is really sad, you know? And so I wrote a note to her just expressing my sympathy and saying, really felt bad, and just the note. And so I do understand I think I do anyway, of not not making good or bad. But sometimes you see something and it really is sad. That would be the same of don't make happy or sad. Mm-hmm. Sometimes situations are sad, and sometimes there is a bad thing. You could say that the man beating the dog, that was a bad thing. It doesn't mean the man was bad or the dog was bad. It was a bad thing, though. Mm-hmm. How's that good? You know what I mean? So how do we resolve that? What would you comment on that?
So when we say good and evil have excuse me, no self-nature. That's not the same exactly at all, in fact, as saying there is nothing bad, harmful, even to the point of disastrous in this world. So we respond to each situation with a clear mind and an open heart. It's usually not necessary to pass judgment on anything, rather to have the response along the lines of, how can I help? And at times it may seem that there's absolutely nothing that you can do, at least not directly. But our practice is actually oriented in that direction. How can I help? So we always say, this practice is not for me. It is for all beings. All beings, whether we term them good, good or bad, holy or unholy. So it's sometimes not clear to us, in this situation, what should I do? Perhaps something truly horrible has happened, and it's clear that it's beyond your power to do anything directly. But we can still hold this in our hearts, and we can chant. So our chanting, especially the chanting Kwan Seum Bosal, is directed towards this issue. Kwan Se means perceive world sound. And when that notion is expanded, we say, perceive the sound of the world's suffering. So sometimes we feel completely helpless. Something terrible has happened. It might or might not be something that you would call evil. Just natural disasters happen. People suffer terribly, even when no evil, nothing you might remotely term evil, some act of nature has occurred. So our world can legitimately be described as a world of suffering. Over and over again, throughout the ages, some of it caused by humans, much of it caused by nature. So what is our response to suffering is perhaps a better question than what is our response to evil. So whether it's suffering or you want to call it evil, the best response is, how can I help? How can I help? And sometimes you may feel legitimately quite helpless. But we always have our practice. We can always chant, direct our energy towards any situation, no matter how terrible it is. And we do that, in our practice. Sometimes we do it explicitly. We chant for, people suffering in a certain way. Sometimes it's the general direction of our practice. It's great love, great compassion, the great bodhisattva way. So that's the best response I can give to you. But it still remains, I know, and should remain, a great don't know. And there's been a lot of philosophy on what is called the problem of evil. All sorts of schools of philosophy, address this. I don't know how many of them get around to, you might say, the Buddhist approach. So, what can I do about it? How can I help? So thank you for your question. And we have time for another question. And Tom Davis is raising his hand.
I'm not sure it's on.
Okay, I think that's it. Welcome back. Did you meet any bodhisattvas on your travels?
I should explain that, because Tom knows, but most of you perhaps don't know, that Judy and I were, maybe you didn't even notice we were gone for 10 days. No, that's perfectly understandable. We flew to California for a memorial ceremony, a celebration of life for Judy's beloved great aunt, Miriam, who died at the age of 93 after being completely active in her university position until she was 92, and had done works of wonder, really, at that university, even though she had an adjunct position. I can't talk too much about her now. So we met many beings. Right? There were many beings at the memorial ceremony. It looked like there were about 100. And it was, and so many people spoke so eloquently, about her. So that was the great bodhisattva that we met on this trip, is Judy's aunt Miriam, whom we had visited her many times before in Santa Cruz. And if anyone deserves the designation bodhisattva, Miriam certainly does. So Kwanse Mbosal, Mitch, we used to call her. So thank you for your question. And of course, there are bodhisattvas everywhere. Pick up a rock and there's a bodhisattva underneath it. So, might be microscopic, but they're all over. Many in this room. Are there any other questions before I completely run out of voice? Water. We do have time for one more question. So if there are no more questions, I just want to thank you for your practice and for being here today. And we'll have some announcements.